What's good, y'all? Solomon here. I hope you guys are having a great day. Before we get into today's main video, I thought that I would mention I'm giving out a 30% off discount code for the month of June on both of my online courses, including the Ponziani opening and the hippopotamus defense. So if you're interested in one of these courses or both, all you got to do is go down to the description below or the pinned comment, go to the link there, and yeah, whether you're interested in the hippo or the Ponziani or both, plug in the discount code June 2024 and you will receive 30% off on those courses. See y'all in the main video. Let's get it. If you missed out on parts 1 and 2 on how to play the pterodactyl defense, I will leave a link to those in the description below. Today we have part 3 on how to play the pterodactyl defense effectively against the move of d4. Let's take a look. So against the move d4, if you haven't been following with the series so far and know what the pterodactyl is all about, we start out with the modern. Okay, we're playing g6, we're playing bishop g7, and against knight c3, against this specific setup, we're striking with c5. Now in part 1, we covered, okay, what do we do with just the c5 pawn falling off? What do we do? Okay, in that case, the answer is that we take on c3, continue with the move like queen a5 there, and go from there. A lot of fun lines in that video, and I highly recommend that you go check that one out. We also covered in part 2 the move of e3, right? In that case, we can capture on d4, play knight f6, and start looking towards a d5 break. Okay, both of those are very important in terms of the theory. So I recommend you go check those out if you want to play the pterodactyl as best as you possibly can. Today, we're looking at the move knight f3. Okay, pretty common move. Now, the most common move for white, which we're going to be covering in part 4, is d5. But let's cover knight f3, defending that pawn. What do we do here? Let's start by taking. Okay, just like e3, we're going to take that pawn. And after knight takes d4, we can now play knight c6. Okay, just remember that. If you see knight f3, take that pawn, knight c6. Easy. Take the pawn, knight c6. Now you're putting pressure on that knight. E3's played quite a bit. Knight takes c6 as well. Okay, now if you see this move, you can take towards the center. Okay, the engine doesn't mind d takes, but I don't like it personally. I just don't. You could also take on c3 right now if you want to. That's right along the line of pterodactyl type ideas. But if you don't want to take right now, that's fine. You can take with the pawn, e4. Here personally, I wouldn't take right away, but it is totally valid. I kind of like rook b8, just seeing how white develops in a position like this, because our rook can get vision on that pawn, which kind of frees this bishop up a little bit on c1. So the bishop is frozen. This pawn is frozen because of the knight on c3. And because the bishop can't develop, neither can this rook. So white is definitely feeling the heat a little bit on the queen side, whereas we have a very strong dark squared bishop and a rook on b8 pouncing down in the same exact area. Going back to knight c6, if something like knight c2, in this case, we can't activate our rook. So yeah, I mean, let's just take off that knight, mess up white's pawn structure, play a move like knight f6, and go from here. Okay. Now going back to knight c6, if something like e3, let's just develop the other knight, right? Develop the other knight, bishop e2. There's a lot of moves that you can go with here, but d5 performs extremely well, just really crashing in the center of the board. We currently have 2 defenders on that pawn, and white has 2 attackers. Notice, if you take on c6, our pawn captures back. We have another supporter on d5. So white taking here, thinking they're putting more pressure on the pawn. You are, but we're bringing more defense in. So d5 is a very sound move here. At some point, white's probably going to take. Okay, in fact, statistically, white usually takes on d5 here. But let's just say we have castling kingside. Let's just say, again, white goes against the stats and plays b3. They're refusing to take. That's okay. I mean, there's a lot of moves that we could play here. E5 is a move that we could play. Rook e8 is a move. Queen a5. A lot of different things that we can go with. We could also just take the pawn. That's fine, right? Take the pawn. If b takes, I think queen a5 is a good option. If bishop takes, in this case, we could play knight g4 because the bishop has left the defense of that square. We now have 1, 2, 3 pieces all pouncing down on that centralized knight. And if you want to take our knight, okay, we'll calmly capture back, right? We don't want to take the queen here because white's not just going to take back, right? They're going to check us and then take back. So let's capture off that knight when we can. If something like bishop b2, we can play queen c7, threatening a mate. Notice here, I mean, something like f4, e3 falls, right? Anytime you push a pawn in chess, you are permanently weakening squares. In this case, if that f-pawn moves, e3 falls, we now have a fork. And once that queen moves, we're going to just take the rook, right? We'd rather take the rook than an even trade. And after queen c7, if g3, we play queen a5. Some of you, and for good reason, might be wondering, wait a second, why did we just move the same piece twice? We're not supposed to do that in general. And that's true, right? In the opening, my recommendation to you guys isn't to just move a piece, right? Move your knight and then move the same 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 knight and keep doing it and doing it and doing it, generally speaking. There's exceptions, like the Alekhines defense is one of those openings where we actually allow our opponent to push and push and push like crazy. The black knights tangles like that. In this instance, we're not moving the queen so that they overextend, but so that we just provoke a weakness, right? Going back, if we play here right away, white's pawn structure is pretty good on the king side. So why not play queen c7, force a move like g3? That's really the only move that's not losing for white. And then play queen a5. We would rather have the pawn here than on g2. So that's why we throw that little move in there. Here, if something like rook c1, we can throw the queen over now. Threatening mate again. If you push g5, let's just go crazy over here. Black with a fun game going forward. All that to say, though, when we do strike in the center with d5, the most popular move is just white taking. And we capture back with our knight. Okay, now real quickly, I'm just going to show you the most popular moves from this position from the white side. And then we'll kind of go over, other possibilities that we could see. In online chess, the most popular move that we see is knight takes d5. We capture back with the queen. The most popular move, taking off the knight. All right, let's take back with the queen. We have castling kingside, in which case we castle. And against bishop f3, queen b6. Okay, this is a good move. Attacking that pawn on b2. By the way, I'm showing you white's most popular moves. Okay, I'm trying to give you black's best moves in these kind of positions. Rook b1. We can play rook t8, pouncing against the opponent's queen. And if queen e2, bishop d7. Okay, this is the most popular move, but it is the best. We're looking towards bishop b5, skewering the queen to the rook. And in a lot of ways, this position feels a little bit similar, right? I mean, we got 2 pawns on 2 pawns. We have 4 on 4 on the king side, and both sides have a bishop pair. But black here is just a little bit ahead in the race, right? We have a rook on the d file, which white does not have, and our bishop on d7 in particular has a lot of mobility, right? I mean, if something like rook d1, we can still play bishop b5. Once your queen runs, let's take. If you capture back with the bishop, I mean, bishop d3, if you take back with the queen, rook d8, is this position crushing for black? No. But it is better, right? It is better. I mean, yeah, we're attacking your queen. All of our pieces are active. White, on the other hand, they might look at our pieces and go, gosh, you have 2 active bishops, an active queen, active rook. When we look at theirs, I mean, the rook's not active. The bishop on c1's not active. The bishop on f3 is active. I'll give them that. But even this queen here, I mean, if this queen runs, I kind of like our queen more than theirs. So I just think overall we have a nice edge in development in terms of, getting our pieces out. Activity, we can play a move like bishop d3, really eyeing that rook on b1. And if that move, a move like rook a1 happens, then okay, we keep playing here. A lot of different stuff that we could see, but we have an active game and that's what it's all about. Okay. But let's go back real quick to knight takes d5. What other moves could we see here, right? Instead of white going with the usual knight takes d5, which honestly isn't even that great of a move. Okay, in the pterodactyl, we see mistakes all the time. I mentioned this in earlier in the series. In a more mainline opening, if you're playing the Roy Lopez, if you're playing a main line against the Sicilian, if you're playing something like that, you're not going to see as many opening mistakes because people know what they're doing. But when you're playing the pterodactyl defense against d4, the stats just show that white's usually not prepared for it. So, knight takes d5 is not the best move there, in all honesty. What else could we see? Well, it's hard for white to kick us around, right? I mean, queen to b3 is a good option, right? That's something that white can go with. We could see a move like knight takes c6. We'll go over that in a moment. Does e4 work? Can white just kick the pterodactyl around? Well, not really. We take on c3, and when you capture back, we now have 1, 2, 3 pieces all pouncing down on your knight. You only have 2 defenders. So we're going to take and take and take. And because we were up 1 in terms of attackers versus defenders, we won this trade. We're up a pawn. We are better. Going back, if a move like knight takes e6, this is a good move. That's solid. But again, something like e4, white just can't do this. We take on c3. We have 2 attackers there, right? If you want to take our queen, we'll take back. That's fine. Whenever you do take our knight, we capture back. We're going to win your rook now. Castle kingside. We're up a pawn and the exchange, +3 here. And white can't even castle because of our vision on that bishop on d2. Now, following knight takes d5, again, if e4, we take on c3. If you want to take here, we capture back. We're going to be putting even more pressure on that knight once this knight on d4 is out of the way. What about bishop f3? Interesting move. Or still better after taking. But okay, we take on c3, castle kingside. White has to be careful here. Okay, white's got to play a move like, castling kingside's a good option, h3, maybe rook b1. If you take on c6 with the knight, we're just going to calmly capture back, okay? You can take the queen all you want. White here might be thinking, okay, I take a pawn, they take a pawn, they get the rook, I get my rook. Here's the issue. First off, if you run to f1, we throw in a check. You can block if you want to, but at some point you're going to have to run over to g1, game over. That's it. And if something like king e2, much better move, by the way, so that the king can run out. Sure, we could take this rook, but then we lose ours. Okay, still better because we have a check, and then we win their bishop. But the better move is just rook b8. We save our rook. You can't save yours, right? Your rook's being attacked. If you try to run away with your rook, we still take it. We're better here. Okay, so after knight takes d5, there's a lot of ways that white can go wrong here. It's a dead even position. If white here plays a good move like, queen b3, castling kingside, that kind of thing, and in that kind of instance, we're just going to keep developing our pieces. But as we just saw, you can't steamroll us here in this case. You just can't. Now, if we have knight takes d5 after queen takes, we previously covered what happens if knight captures c6 comes into play. I do want to mention this move bishop f3 because pterodactyl defense players actually get in trouble in this line. Here, you just want to slide over to c5. Just slide over 1 square. Okay. Here, if white captures on c6 and then plays queen a4, again, a lot of pterodactyl defense players fall into trouble here after playing a move like bishop d7. And a move like bishop d7 makes sense, right? Just some kind of move here to try to hang on to your pawn. The best way for black to play this is to just keep developing and let the opponent take the pawn. Why is that? Let's take a look. Well, if you take with the queen, we have queen b4 check. The queen can't, I guess the queen could block, but thanks for the queen. If the king moves anywhere, I'm talking f1, e2, d1, the engine gives a huge advantage to black there. Okay, the issue is if you play king f1, you have a king on f1. We play a very quick rook b8, a very quick rook d8 after that. We're putting a ton of pressure on b2 already. The best move you could do is bishop d2. Just give up the pawn. Just give it up. You're not going to be able to hang on to it without giving more away. Just give the pawn up. We're now sitting at even material. And black has a better game here. Castling kingside, we can play a move like rook b8, and we're just playing chess. Now, going back to castling kingside, what if the bishop captures? Well, yet again, we're looking towards this rook b8 idea. Okay. We're putting a ton of pressure on b2. The best thing that white can do here is just get the king the heck out of there. That's the only move here for white that's not -1 or better for black. Just getting the king out of there. And if white does castle, taking here is playable. But rook b4 is the engine move there. Just playing active chess, trying to play crazy. I could see a move like rook b1 being played, right? Just trying to hold on to your pawn. But now bishop c3 check is the engine move here, right? If you want to take with your pawn, the queen captures back with check. Your rook's going to fall. If you run with the king, rook b4 now. The queen's under attack. And you just can't hang on to that bishop. You just can't do it. Okay. And again, I just wanted to mention that if you see the move of bishop f3, just play queen c5. And if white plays queen a4 immediately, in that instance, you can castle. If they take and then play queen a4, just castle. Get the heck out of there. They can win the pawn on c6, but they're so underdeveloped on the queen side that b2 becomes a big target. And if they're so aggressive with winning that pawn on c6, that can often mean that their king is going to become in great danger and just give us a crushing attack. Okay, so just want to cover that move real quick. And again, if knight takes c6, we can capture back with our queen. And from this point, we're just playing chess, right? We can castle. If we get attacked, queen b6, eye up that pawn on b2 as highlighted. Play a move like rook d8, play bishop d7. Great activity there. We're eyeing the b5 square, really. And again, white here is just feeling very awkward on the queen side of the board. They're feeling a little bit cramped. They're feeling like they can't quite catch up. Rook d1, we can attack the queen, take the rook, take the file over again, and just play fun and active chess. Okay. I hope you enjoyed this little segment on the Pterodactyl Defense Part 3. Again, I will leave Parts 1 and 2 in the description below. And if you haven't already, I kindly ask you to subscribe so that you don't miss out on any other content coming your way on this channel. I'm all about just trying to help you guys become better players, help you discover openings that you may have not really considered before. Yeah, I would appreciate y'all. We're trying to get to 50K and hopefully eventually 100,000. So yeah, it's a grind, but I appreciate y'all who are joining for this journey. And I'll see you on the next one. Peace. What's up, y'all? Solomon here. I hope you enjoyed this video. I appreciate y'all a ton. And if you haven't subscribed before, just a quick reminder, to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that bell as well. If you're wanting more content like this to help you improve in your game and all that kind of stuff. And real quickly as well, I wanted to give a quick shout out to my Patreon supporters for the month of June in 2024. I appreciate y'all a ton. You guys are helping me do this full time. And yeah, I mean, if you haven't checked it out before, I highly recommend that you go check out some of the benefits that you gain by becoming a member. And I will see y'all in the next one. Peace.